everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tuber. Welcome back. This is your 7th Suits LA episode review. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe out there in the big old world. I have nothing. I have nothing more to say. I really don't. It's been a very long week. I probably made this noticeable in the last episode review. So I had an accident with my finger. I was kind of really feeling from the meds, from the pain medication, so I wasn't quite wanting to talk about it yet, but yeah, I had an accident. My finger got caught up. That's why a lot of the reviews got delayed, and as well as I completely forgot about Mad Lab, which we'll get to next time. But so I did want to see what Suits LA was all about this week, because again, I was riding a little bit of a high, and I'm like, 6 was really good. And now here we are in 7. I'm like, okay, we're at the halfway mark of the season. I really hope they don't screw things up. I really, really don't. And to say the least, because again, I watched this episode a couple days later than its original broadcast. For me, personally speaking, it was good. It was another good episode. This was kind of in a middle line of like, where were we going? It kind of felt like it was trying to like reset up the show again, like kind of like trying to like pick up where the last 6 left off, and then kind of going to where the next 6 were going to go. Like, this kind of felt like really like a halfway episode where we're not really progressing too much with the story. And I think that was a good thing, because again, I don't know where we're going, to be honest with you. Like, I said the first 6 episodes was kind of like doing its own thing. Whether or not it was very appeasable for me as the reviewer to kind of accept that this was how they kind of introduced me to this show. And now here we are in a halfway mark where I would not be surprised if they decide to kind of focus back on the characters, not have an overarching arc again. But again, like I said, this felt like a halfway episode. I think they had a different agenda here because of just real-life circumstances coming at play. And honestly, I feel like I felt it to be in good taste, to find it appreciable for the way they did it. And as well as kind of keep things kind of plucking along a little bit, not too much. And hopefully by the time we do come back next time for the proper second half of the season, that we will have a really good Friendly. Plus, again, I already know we have Harvey coming back for another 2 episodes at some point this season. We also have another Suits alum coming back for another episode this season. So we have a lot to focus on really in the next couple of episodes. But for the time being, I think this episode was really good. If anyone wants to view this as the episode that it was, I feel like it'd be a little bit of an interesting direction, really speaking. It's one of those, episode where like we kind of have to still kind of stay true to what the show is, but at the same time taking some time to like really kind of be in remembrance of what came before. And I think they did it in really good taste. And they didn't have to do it. They didn't really have to do it. I wasn't expecting this, but the fact that they did that, it worked out. It really, really worked out. So with all that being said, let's go for the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Suits LA. So, interesting enough, when I was watching the recap, I was a bit confused, considering the fact that we were going back from scenes from the first episode, which I was curious, are we going to literally get an entire recap of the first 6 episodes of Suits LA so far? But no, we don't. It's literally just the first episode with certain moments from a certain guest star that we had in that premiere, and then we cut to the present day, where it's the day after the court trial, so everyone's riding high. Ted's firm is like really rocking. Like, yes, we won our first big case without Stewart, a big criminal case without him, kind of to just again solidify the fact that the firm is still going. They still have a business, and they're still going to put food on the table. So, which is great. He and Amanda are kind of reverting to kind of similar to where we started. We're like, it's clear as hell that they do have some sort of attraction to each other, but we're not quite getting to that just yet. But now that everything's out of the way, the big trial's over, all the dramatics are now over. We're kind of moving back to traditional firm stuff, because again, it's not always about the big one case. It's about getting back to work, because if you start talking about just the one case over and over again, okay, I'm getting too far in the weeds here. So Ted's calling a meeting, and he wants Amanda to attend, even though she is a pro bono lawyer that's just operating independently in the building, as well as for Kevin to join as well, who is about to say sayonara and head back to New York. Since his contract work is over, Ted pays him out very handsomely, even though that he wanted a little bit more money. Ted's like, yeah, but you did withhold evidence from me at the very end of the case and expected me to kind of wrap it up without it. So I'm like, you're lucky to even get this bonus. Which Kevin's like, fairly well. But how he also summons Kevin over to get him also situated on the matter. So from there, I want to say we also get a parallel with Stewart, as they're also conducting their own morning meeting. Again, the first one for the now the I forgot the Rockway. It's a weird last name. Lane firm, as they're really like, yes, finally it's our first real post merger firm meeting. We're really ready to like rock and roll. I don't know why I'm doing that, and Samantha's already getting jives. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not down for this whatsoever. This is entirely the reason why I didn't have meetings pre-merger, but here we are. So Stewart's about to get into it, saying they're about to represent Mr. David Bowie. No, not the famous musician. It's just a show original character that just happens to share the same name as the legendary musician. No, it's someone else that we're going to get to in just a bit of time, where then we get a little bit of aside from Rick, who says he has to leave. He shows his phone to Stewart, and Stewart immediately grants him, okay, go, do what you got to do. So he heads off to do that. Then we cut over back to the black firm, where Ted's about to make a big announcement. Obviously congratulating everyone for holding down the ship while he was off busy handling the big case, which again has put their firm back on the map. Again, no Stewart involved, so it allows them to show everyone in LA that, hey, we don't need Stewart to maintain both entertainment and criminal defense. We can still keep that going, and that's what we're going to do. However, also before taking it to the big announcements that he was promising to both Kevin and Amanda, his assistant pulls him away to let him know that sadly John Amos, the guest star that we had back in the premiere, has passed away in universe. Which, again, as I said before, in the premiere, sadly that actor did pass away after he shot the pilot. Whether or not he was planned to be a recurring role in that show, I was not certain of that. I didn't do my research on that, but to be honest with you. But what I can say is that, so it's a sad day, as Ted also has to adjourn the meeting so he can go handle this. Immediately calling Rick up, since, again, for both of them, for Ted and Rick, they were kind of both his first real client. Ted, when he first moved to LA, becoming an entertainment lawyer, and also for Rick, also being the first real actor to kind of look at him as like, yeah, I think you got what it takes to represent me. So him being gone, they decided to meet up in a very mutual restaurant, just drink some beers. That it's not, it really is sad. And this is what I meant before when I was kickstarting this. They didn't really have to do that. They did not have to do that. They could have just kept them in live in universe. But the fact that they're going out of their way to still remember him because of how much he's done. Just as a bit of another aside, that he has done amazing work. Besides just his cameo here, he has done most famously Good Times, which was a family sitcom back in the 70s or 80s. I forgot exactly when specifically. I do forgot. But that was his prime time. Obviously, I know him as McDowell from Coming to America. Both of them. So he has done so much work in the industry, especially at least in this show, having assisted Ted and Rick in their stories. It means a lot to them that that he's made such an impact in their lives, and it sucks that he's gone. And now they're kind of just taking the day to kind of remember him, kind of to try and to remember the, no pun intended, the good times they did have with him, even though Ted has a little bit of a shrew for him, but it's still with very much of love. Meanwhile, Leia actually is making some moves of her own, trying to become again, now that she's a partner, to obviously big money, obviously, but you got to bring some clients of your own, and she has a new one, an author who may not entirely be in entertainment, but her books have become into scripts, so that technically falls into their category. And Leah immediately wants to poach her, immediately wants to get her, and she's like, great, I have this new script that is being optioned to be sold very soon. I would like for you to read it and make sure this is in the best possible direction for us. And Leia's instantly ready to go, instantly ready to kickstart this entire proceeding off right. Kevin, while he's marbling at some donuts, it's probably some. Actually, I've never had LA donuts when I've been there before. I really haven't. They're probably the same as here, but it doesn't. One thing or another. But Erica comes up to him to ask him a favor that before he heads off back to New York, she does want him to take a look at a personal matter of hers, which her mother's birthday is coming up. She used to have a bestie that they used to be inseparable, but sadly because of real life circumstances, they were no longer able to kind of stay in touch, and they lost connections as the years gone by. And she wants it to be a birthday present for them to reconnect. So she wants Kevin to do his PI research and to go find her. See where she's at, see where she's holding up now in the world, and hopefully to get these two people back together. Which he very graciously agrees to. Ted and Rick spends up the entire day drinking, getting a personal ride back to their places. Rick getting massaged by a car chair, which I'm like, that's a new one. That's a new one on me. I think this is kind of like the only. I think this is where the moments happen where like Ted does unload a little bit about. Oh no, we're not there yet. Are we there yet? I forgot. No. It was mainly we're not there yet. We're not. But the two of them do talk about like the fact that of all the actors that have Hollywood stars of fame, that John doesn't have one, and I'm just like, even to myself, does John Amos not have a Hollywood star of fame? Like, you serious? So we'll reconvene on this in the morning, but at least for the time being, they are very much gun ho on the idea of like, let's get John a star posthumously, at least to like remember his contributions to Hollywood. From there, I want to say we go over to. I know Leia shows up at Rick's house conveniently to drop off something for her. Apparently, I know Leia does briefly talk to Ted's assistant about the possibility of her taking a sabbatical because she was reading her client's script and it was okay, but Leia feels like she can do a better draft of it, and so she wants to take the sabbatical to kind of like realize if this is the direction that she would want to take herself in. And the assistant kind of mocks her a little bit, saying that, no, that's not going to happen. You work for us. You work in our firm. The whole goal for you is to be here. Like, taking a sabbatical is not in the company's best interest. So I will grant you a 48-hour period. You can go and do whatever the hell you want. But beyond that, you're going to have to choose, like, do you really want to be in this firm, be a lawyer, or do you want to go be a writer? There really is no two ways about it. So, which at least she's getting an opportunity, which I might just take it. So she drives up by Rick's house because, again, since Rick is the head of entertainment and she doesn't want Erica to find out, for her to kind of basically read her script, see if, like, there's even an inkling of a possibility that she could be a really good writer down the road, at least in that regard. Then we go over to Stewart, who's handling Mr. Not David Bowie, who in this universe is a producer, who is very known for having very violent tendencies to get his films done. He's in the middle of another controversy, a very nasty one, and that could potentially go to court. So obviously Stewart is there to kind of like pitch him to like, okay, I'm going to represent you. Here's our strategy. And the guy's like, no, not doing that. I sign up with your firm mainly because of Samantha. Samantha, I've known to be a great catch. She has a very great reputation, and I know for a fact if she vouches for me that I am not a bad producer, then everything will be fine. Then there will be no problems. You won't even need to proceed forward with any sort of criminal case because Samantha can vouch for me. And as much as again, Stewart is just mainly focusing on this matter at hand, the case at hand. He's like, no, you don't get what I mean. I want Samantha. She's going to she doesn't even need to go to court for this one. So just speak to Samantha, get her down here. I want her endorsement. I want a press conference, and that's it. And then he leaves. Otherwise, he'll take his business somewhere else. Which, obviously, Stewart does not feel that great by. Because, again, like, this is his area, his branch torch. And it kind of sucks, like, at this point in the story, Stewart has not really gotten his day in court, literally. Because Ted took over his slot with the producer kid, and now here he is probably trying to take this one up next as for his next big thing. And the guy's like, no, I want Samantha. So, not gonna lie, I would not be surprised if Stewart's feeling a little salty over everything that's going on right now. I know we get one more scene where Stewart's on his way out. He runs into Samantha, letting her know that the client is not being picked up right now. He wants Samantha to just do a press conference and just say that the guy is innocent, that he has nothing illicit going on. Obviously, Samantha's like, I want nowhere near this guy. I don't want a relationship with him. I don't want to be connected with this guy. He's just using me for my reputation. And Stewart's like, Yes, I understand that, but again, he's still our client under the firm, so if that's what he wants, and that's literally the minorest work we can do, we might as well do it. And she's like, nope, not doing it. I will not compromise my integrity just for this. And then Stewart gets mad at her, saying that, oh, it's another Ted thing again. If it's Ted asking you this, you would have bent over backwards for him, but because it's me, you ain't doing crap for me. And on the other side of the thing, we're like, Ted never really did anything that what Stewart wanted to do. And here comes Samantha, who claimed that things would be different. This will be a different regime, a different, this is a fair equal opportunity matter. And he's not really feeling that so far from them. And so Stewart leaves, being very disappointed in her about her decision of the matter. We cut to the next day where Ted and Samantha happen to run into each other in the same cafe. Samantha's just really not trying to get in the office to avoid Stewart, and Ted's there for a meeting with Rick. And the two kind of talk a little bit, friendly now. Again, I won't say it's romantic intention, but definitely Ted still probably cares about her a lot. So he kind of gives her 2 cents about Stewart's demeanor and his personality and his work ethic, and then Ted does have a point that Ted never really gave him a proper chance to really show himself. So but he already knows that Stewart is very capable of handling things in his own direction, whatever he sets out to do. So in this matter, he's just I think maybe Stewart's request is not really out of the ordinary, to be honest with you. Rick gets a brief call from Erica. Apparently, Erica is teasing him for the fact that he did invite her for something, whatever it is, and that she's willing to say yes to it, but she wants Rick to remember it, as Rick was still hungover at the time of his call. So it's a little guessing in on what exactly it is. So Rick and Ted meet up with a Hollywood Walk of Fame moderator. And he does agree to give John Amos a star, but Howard, sadly, because of how the process goes, it'll be in about a couple years, which instantly Rick's like, that's great. And Ted's like, what the fuck? The man just died. This now would be the perfect opportunity, while his memory's still fresh and everything, to honor him with that star. And the guy's like, well, I understand that, but Leo doesn't have a star, Denzel doesn't have a star. And I'm just like, Leonardo DiCaprio will never do a public day for. I swear to God, if Leonardo DiCaprio does get a Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame, I will personally, whenever I go to LA next time, I will personally go down there and take a photo with it. I was gonna say I was gonna kiss it, but I'm like, I'm not trying to get sick. I really am not. I'm already health wise, I'm not really in the mood to do that. I'm not really so. But yeah, so Ted starts berating him about the fact of all of John Admos' achievements in Hollywood, about all the impact he's done on the industry, and as much as the guy understands that, again, there is a certain protocol, and eventually Ted does have to start settling for insults against him, and the guy's like, okay, you know what, because of that, John Amos will never get a Hollywood star of fame. Which I'm just like, what the fuck? It really is all about politics with these sort of things. So all of them get dismissed. Kevin shows up with the document that does give Erica the good news that her mom's friend is still alive. She's still alive and kicking in Arizona, so there's not that far away from them to kind of, coordinate a meetup. At the same time, Erica's mom shows up, and, there's a little flirting between her and Kevin. Again, I'm not quite sure how old Kevin is. I just assume he's around Ted's age, but I really don't. I don't quite know. But anyway, so they go out for their own mother-daughter thing, which we'll talk about more in a second. I believe, where do we go? I believe we do get some flashback. I forgot about the flashbacks this episode. Ted goes to meet up with his father, aka Matt Lachette, returning again. Apparently, Ted's dad is now being the subject of a separate lawsuit from the DA's office against his criminal activity relating to Pellegrini. And Ted is, being summoned here mainly because his dad wants him out. What do you know about this matter? How can you help me out? I do not want to go to prison. And Ted's like, what the fuck? Literally, the last time we talked about this matter, you tried basically putting me under their thumb just to keep your ass rich. And the guy's like, look, I understand, but I'm still your dad. I don't want to go to prison. And Ted's like, no. You dug your own grave. You're going to deal with it. And I do know the follow-up scene is Ted and Kevin discussing the matter at hand, where this is really a really bad predicament they're in. That the fact that essentially, if they fully go for trial with both of these matters, like Ted could be seen as a culpable subject that maybe he wasn't caught in the middle of it, but he was about to. It basically would raise questionability about his legal representation, and he might be disbarred and kicked out of the DA's office if they pursue force. So another avenue that Ted could do at the moment to kind of alleviate his own reputation is to prosecute against his dad. At least prove the fact he's willing to make tough choices by literally going up against his dad, getting him in prison. That could be it. So as an angle, they could possibly play it there. But we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that a little bit later. I remember. What do I see happening here? I'm trying to remember. My brain is like fleeting for the moon here. It really is. I know Rick eventually shows up to Ted's office, gets mad about his behavior at the breakfast meeting, and Ted's like, "Look, we both represented John. We both know how much he has done for the industry, and that producer literally does not give a damn about that. The fact is that he deserves it, and if he wasn't going to do it now, he was never going to do it." Which Rick's like, I understand that, but at the end of the day, John's not here. We're doing something nice for John, and if it was 2 years later, it was better than nothing. So the two have a major disagreement. Rick eventually storms out. Leia kind of briefly stops him to ask him about what does he think about the manuscripts that she sent over to him, and he's like, yeah, they're not really great. They're not great. And also the other thing is that the fact that it's under a penship name that even the author, which again is Leia in this case, is not even comfortable in her own work to even present herself because her name's not on it. So that was only Rick's 2 cents on the matter on that sadly. So at least in this regard, Leia does not have the support right now to go independent and do her own writing thing. I believe I know Erica and her mom have a dinner together. They kind of catch up a little bit, where it kind of gives the assumption Erica's mom is seeking a divorce or a separation just by the words of things. Then we also figure out that Kevin is a widow, which if he did mention he's a widow for early episodes, I do apologize. Those earlier episodes were not my cup of forte, in my opinion. So the fact that, this is new information to me. And the fact is, life is one, and that she can also sense that Kevin kind of needs a change. Like Kevin is not really sort of happy right now with his life. And that this could possibly be, because, the assumption is that, Ted was about to offer Kevin a permanent residence, permanent gig at the firm as a PI. And that, this could possibly be a great way for him to restart fresh and, reshake his tune, basically speaking. So Erica starts to really ponder about that a little bit as we cut to a little bit later where Erica and Kevin do have a one-on-one where Kevin apparently was, about to get his own office, about to get offered a job at the firm, and he looks around his office kind of like, basking in it. And, Erica's like, look, you have done great contributions to us in the recent few weeks, and I think it would be great if you were to stay on permanently. Let's keep doing this. Let's keep working together. And he's a little hesitant by it. He does request a day or two to like really think about, because like it's a big move to like move from like one side of the coast to the other. Like it's a really big move, and it's still not guaranteed. So 100% this is not something he can take casually. So he just needs a moment to really think about it. I know Ted immediately calls over Rick to apologize to him about the matter, that, that a reason why Ted wasn't really 100% there was because that, Ted and their last conversation together with John in the premiere was very much, John was like, you need to go back to New York and forgive your father. This might be your only chance. You don't remember regrets, and Ted never took his advice. And even though Ted did go to New York and had that final words with his father, it was not the way that it was meant to go. And, maybe Ted has some unspoken things about it, and that, he's just using his conversation with John as like, a way to like unload his anger on the matter. But Rick, he does have it is what it is, sadly. And, Ted's been doing all this to kind of make up for the missed opportunity he could have had to spend a little bit more time with John. And, Rick does agree with him about it, and that, they shouldn't let the loss really affect us too much. They really shouldn't. I know we do get a scene where Leia does have a one-off with her potential client, just letting her know, like, I want to fight for you. I want to expand into you. I'm looking at your scripts, and you have potential to do even more, to gain even more. And as your lawyer, I will do 100% to make sure you get the best opportunity. Plus, if you need someone to like, bounce off some ideas, make a couple scripts or two, I'm your girl. I'm willing to like work with you to like, get you sold. Then her looping back to Ted's assistant to let her know like, yeah, no, so I made my choice. I'm going to stay around at the firm full time while having some writing contributions then and there to my clients. And she's like, that's great. This is exactly why I decided to pick you when it was my vote to pick the next associate joining us, which obviously like gets a little confused by considering the fact the two never had a prior interaction beforehand. But she does say like, yeah, but you kind of remind me of me, so that's why I picked you to give you a chance like I did, which is sweet by that logic. I'm trying to remember what else there was. Like there was a couple. I know there was a scene between Samantha and Stuart where Samantha kind of does apologize to Stuart about her behavior, and then that they should really get a chance, and then she did manage to talk to Ted, who again confirming that Ted does feel remorse over the way he treated Stuart at the end, which again Ted like Stuart remembering how his conversation with Ted yesterday went, like okay, so he wasn't lying about that, so which is good. So from there, Stuart does call over Ted just to give his condolences about John Amos, which Ted agrees. They get a little like banter in, which again is a positive sign that they might be heading towards the right direction. Might be. So Amanda comes into the room, kind of like trying to figure out what was the big surprise at the meeting that she had to participate in. And Ted's like, yes, I wanted to pitch to the board about potentially making you our next associate, a real associate at the firm. Which Amanda's like, she's grateful for the offer. Obviously, she's a bit more concerned about her pro bono work, since this could make a bit of an impact on it. But Ted's like, okay, well, take your time, let me know, and we'll figure out a system when we cross that bridge, which she does agree to. I'm trying to remember if there's anything. I remember Rick does remember the thing that Erica teased him about, and the two decide to go and do it. So from there, I want to say, did we get any other scene? I know Kevin has one more one-off with Erica beforehand where he admits the reason why he doesn't want to move out of New York is because when he was in the FBI, he was kind of doing his own thing, even working with Ted, that, his dad always had, like, expectation for him to, like, kind of retire into the family business in the private firm to keep the legacy going. And that was his plan. And, that since he was like dishonorably removed from the FBI and he kind of had to go there pretty quickly, that he doesn't quite feel ready yet to like leave that behind. So that's why he doesn't want to leave at all. So, and she's just he's hoping that she can respect that, as he thinks his role still has to be back in New York. But even before he goes, Erica asks him, but wait, but you left the FBI early, you didn't retire from it, so. And then you didn't talk to Ted for so many years. Like, what's the story behind there? And he's like, yeah, that's a story for another time. But not today whatsoever. And, I believe to wrap it up, Kevin takes Ted upstairs to the next level of the firm. Erica goes over to Rick's firm with Stuart kind of lingering behind. And apparently they're just all watching an episode of Good Times to just remember John Amos, which... came at I'm guessing, I've never watched Good Times whatsoever, a critical moment where he looks at where his dad character, looks at an assailant who shot his son, which again, I don't know the context, if he killed the son or like it was just an accident, I really don't know. And instead of like, going off on him, like trying to like, attack him, he just kind of, apologized and wished him the best. And he looked at his wife about it and he's just like, what kind of dad am I to let my son's assailant actually receive good words and good faith? Like, what kind of dad am I? And his wife says, a very good one. And it was a very touching scene. And again, just for the characters for the show here to kind of like remember John's work, his prime work when he was alive, and just remember that he will be missed. And that was, we get a little dedication of, and that was a wrap for this week's episode of Suits LA. I enjoyed it. I really did. I felt like the John Amos like focus segment was very nice. It was very sweet. Again, they didn't have to do it. They really didn't have to do it. But the fact that they did, that they acknowledged their own guest star, and they gave it with such gusto, with such remarks, it was sweet to see. It very was. And it kind of moved forward a little bit of Ted's character, kind of moved it a little bit forward for. Oh right, I forgot it for Ted. We had a couple more flashbacks where Ted pitches to his the DA of like potentially having Ted lead both the Pellegrini case and his dad's case as a possibility. If the agreement is Ted's dad can testify in the Pellegrini case, which that is the only condition that Ted might get out of this. But if Ted is not able to fully prosecute his dad and doesn't get that deal, then once the case is over with Pellegrini, Ted would have to forcibly resign and leave the DA's office. Which he tries to pivot to his dad to try and beg him, like, look, you're my dad. You fucked me over. The least you can do is testify and, get ourselves out of this mess. And he's like, nope, I want to live. And he leaves. So, yeah, so it was nice seeing Ted's, continuing standpoint on the matter, having that continue for him. Seeing him kind of, like in two separate directions, kind of regressing to the character we kind of know already from this show, and then also evolving in his current day self of like acknowledging he was not a perfect person and then he needs to make those strives to kind of become a better person. And, those were very much appreciative. Still think Stewart is getting that weird mixed bag shaft where like some episodes he feels like he's a victim and some episodes he feels like he's a bit of a hard ass. Like, I don't really see the in-between yet. I really don't. But it is something they're playing on. Hopefully we do get some sort of like change in that very soon. And seeing a little bit more Leia because she wasn't there last week, progressing in her own independent work was very frugal to see her for a character that she begins to develop more as an independent person. And then getting, Ted and Rick bonding time, because again, it just seemed like these two were going to pair off a lot in what I was originally pitched on the show. And the fact they got that scene, it works out. It really, really does. And I hope we see more of that. I really just want to see more Ted and Stewart. That's all I really want. I want to see more of that dynamic and really make that stride to what the little we got so far already in the show. But with all that being said, I'm giving this episode 2 thumbs up. Let me know down below what you think of this week's episode of Suits LA. I would love to have a conversation with you down below about it. But I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been Once to Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the first hopeful season of Suits LA. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's to Do besides our Suits LA episode reviews, we are doing Madlock episode reviews each and every Thursdays after Brandis on CBS. We're also doing rookie episode reviews each and every week after Brandis on Tuesdays on ABC, or we're doing Reacher reviews each and every Thursdays after Brandis on Prime. But if you don't care about Suits LA, your luck. We'll be back next week with another brand new episode review for you, so stay tuned until then. But again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring that bell and follow us on social media for more. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.